All right, now we're ready.
Save it for later,
Okay, hey everybody, are we recording? Is it actually recording? It's recording. Woohoo! Hey everybody, we're live on YouTube, and it's being recorded. This is awesome. And I'll watch our camera.
Who's ready to work?
That was Tristan Jacobs.
Jacob's brother.
Tristan Stevens. I said Tristan Jacobs.
Yeah. Jacob.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about refreshing those brushstrokes for just a little bit. So hang with me. What do you remember about the brushstrokes? Guys, tell me a brushstroke that you remember.
Oh.
You remember the brushstrokes?
Action verbs.
Noun absolutes.
Noun absolutes.
Strong verb.
What is a noun absolute? Give me that one.
I vote Brecken.
What?
You wrote Brecken.
I refuse.
Oh, I can't see me. You can't see me.
No, I can see your arm. There you go.
Yes, that's great.
So.
Would you like me to film you? I'll come to your camera, man.
Oh, that'd be great.
I can do that soon.
So.
That's all you pull.
Need to do this, don't I?
That's all you pull into your fucking spots.
All right, now you can see me, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the board, so that's a perfect view.
Phone. Stand, please.
So the noun absolute. I mean, there's different forms, but the main one is when you take an ing word, like running, and you add a noun to the beginning of that. Okay? So, give me an example. Somebody give me an example of one. Not that you're reading, one that's off the top of your head.
Body sweating.
Huh?
Body sweating.
Body sweating? Yeah. Body sweating.
Teeth chattering.
Tristan running.
Teeth chattering.
I'm really good at things.
Okay? So we've got a noun and an ing word. And you would often put that at the beginning of a sentence. So we'd say something like, teeth chattering, he sat there shaking from the cold. Okay? So you've got this noun absolute phrase followed by the sentence. And so there's always going to be a comma after that as well. So that's your noun absolute. You got a noun, and why they use the word absolute, I don't get it. I don't know. Paws curling, back stretching, the dog yawns silently. Okay? Give me another. What's another brushstroke?
Action verbs.
An action verb. Action verbs ought to be they ought to be the one that would be the easiest. However, they can be difficult because people choose action verbs that just aren't very powerful. Okay? So that unit that you did on personification is a good one because all of those verbs that you're learning, you're actually practicing spotting strong action verbs. Okay, like the one that we have here, where the gravel road curled around the left side of the barn. So that's much better than was on the left side. This is just telling us a state of being. This has it actually, the gravel road's doing something. Okay, so you can have even inanimate, non-living things doing. And so that's the kind of thing that you want to make sure that you've got going on. Instead of the snake, went through the tall grass, which a lot of people would have, you've got he slithered. So you want to use verbs that are powerful. Name another brushstroke. What's another one you remember?
Positives.
Appositives. Okay, the appositive is actually one of the ones to me that's one of the easier ones to remember because it's just a noun that adds additional information to a preceding noun. Okay, So it can be something as simple as Danny, or it could be something like, let's use Jacob, comma, Tristan's, is he older?
Yeah.
Tristan's older, uglier brother,
Yeah.
comma. All right,
Yeah, you
so
heard that,
it's
YouTube?
going to be set off in commas. Going to be set off in commas, or from your perspective, it's going to be set off in commas. But what's inside those commas is just giving us additional information about the subject. All right, so and it's going to rename that subject. Okay, so we said it was his brother, Tristan, Jacob's other brother, something like that,
Younger,
or
sexier brother.
a younger, sexier brother. Can we go? So you've got the waterfall, a tilted pitcher, and so this is renaming the waterfall, or the poisonous snake, the creepy rattler, and so creepy rattler renames a snake. Now it's going to be a noun though. What you're telling us about him, it's going to be a noun that renames that noun. It can't be an adjective, because if it's an adjective, then it's not an appositive anymore. A positive is going to be another noun. And this stuff's important because you've got to be able to write with these in the personal narrative essay. I'm going to say pick four of the brush strokes. There's 6. Pick 4 of them. Know them well enough that you can put them into your essay, and you're going to do 2 of each. So you're going to have 8 brush strokes, the 4 of your choice. Okay. What's the other one? Name another brush stroke.
Shifting.
Shifting adjectives out of order. So back to that one. So this is where you take where we normally have adjectives, and in English we like to put the adjective right in front. I'm going to go with a black marker. I think the people online will see that better. We normally put, the red barn. Okay, that's normally where we expect to have our adjectives. Here we have the subject and we have that adjective in front of it. Well, instead, we could just say something like, well, start it off with red and dilapidated, comma, the barn. And so we've taken our adjectives and we've set them off that way, or we could say the barn. This is the one that professors like to see. The barn, red and run down, comma, was, instead, you don't want to say, barely stood in the field. So what other brushstroke did I employ along with, we've got red and run down, which instead of saying the red and run down barn, we said the barn red and run down. We used adjectives. What other brushstroke did I use?
Action verb?
Yeah, what's the action verb?
Stood.
Yeah, we've got the barn standing. Instead of saying the red and run down, the barn red and run down, barely, was up in the field, or something lame like that. We've got a better, strong verb. Okay? So take those adjectives and just shift them after the subject and set them off with commas. All right, what's another one? Another brushstroke.
Participles?
Yeah, participles. And I think where are those next?
Back.
Back.
Such a cool word. Right there.
Oh yeah, there it is. So participles, the easiest way to do it. Now remember, I'm telling you guys, I'm giving you the easiest version. But like if you read the cat story, if you went in and identified some of those, some of you might have caught that I'm using some participles that don't end in ing. But the easiest way to learn them is just to say, take ing words and use them to paint around your subject in the sentence. So watch this. So you take, instead of the football player darted down the field, You add to that by saying dodging the tackle and weaving through their defense. You take these ing words and you add them onto the beginning with a phrase and a comma that now becomes much more descriptive. We see something very different in that sentence than we see in that sentence. We see a lot more, okay? We see what he's doing. Because based on the football player, they don't run that way. So all football players run different. You guys don't remember Herschel Walker. Was no way. I mean, you were, it's lifetimes before
He
you.
was really good though.
He was amazing. Well, he didn't dodge and weave. You know, Franco Harris, back in my day, didn't dodge and weave anybody. He ran right straight through your body. Okay, he didn't sidestep 1 second to get around you. He saw no need to do that. He just ran right over you. Okay, so this kind of stuff is necessary so that you're painting the picture. So that when we say that the football player darted down the field, I don't see Herschel Walker. When you want me to see Bo Jackson, well, Bo could cut. Bo did everything. You want me to see Bo Jackson cutting and moving and Marcus Smith. You want me to see those guys who do this. All right. So you want to be able to put these ing words, and you can shift them around. The football player dodging the tackle darted down the field. So you can move one of those or both of those, or you can put them at the end. The football player darted down the field, comma, dodging the tackle and weaving through their defense. So you can do it that way too. Is that all of them? I think that's it.
We didn't do prepositional phrases.
Prepositional phrases, thank you. I know that one was second. So prepositional phrases it's all the same kind of stuff. You're taking different kinds of phrases and you're adding them to sentences. So we've got the girl waved goodbye to her mother's plane. Well, if that was just the sentence and I told you to imagine that in your eye, you'd all see something different. But if I said, with tears in her eyes, now I'm forcing you to see what I want you to see because I'm adding this detail. With is the preposition. Tears in her eyes. Now I see a very specific image painted on my mind. We could say the girl waved goodbye to her mother's plane with tears in her eyes. But shifting it around so that the important thing here is that you're taking all of these brush strokes, looking at all 6 or the 4 you're going to grab and learn, and you're saying, I want to be able to take these different phrases and paint them in different places all around in my writing, wherever it makes sense and doesn't become awkward and funny sounding. It needs to sound good, but you want to be able to see them in that regard. So let's look at the cat story. See if you can find any of them. Blow this up a little bit for our viewers at home. Bold. Let's go ahead and
I
make
should
it.
mention that the entire time you're writing on the board, it's not visible on your camera. It's that tiny.
Huh?
When you were writing on the board, I couldn't even see
Oh,
it
you
on
can't.
camera.
Oh, you can't see it.
It's very hard to see it.
Well, from your perspective, it is, but when you get up here, you can see it. Yeah. All right. So now let's look through this and see if you can see. I said in this paragraph, we've definitely got positives in this paragraph. What are the positives that are in that paragraph?
I'm not sure if
One of them's a long one.
I don't know if I grabbed this one from it, but I have one that says, then arms bent in front of me. I just read the first little bit. I don't know if that's in that section.
I don't see it in this one. What's the appositive? Now remember, an appositive is a noun phrase that renames the subject. What in this paragraph renames the subject? look at this sentence, starting, we lived in the red brick pastoral. What's the appositive?
Isn't it literally just that sentence?
Well, one's a positive, it's a phrase.
The house the church owned.
Exactly. The house the church owned next to the church building. That whole phrase is a noun phrase, starts off with the house. It renames red brick pastoral. Now, why would I want to include that? Why in a story with this, why wouldn't I just say, we lived in the red brick pastoral?
So you know where that house is? I mean,
How many of you know what the word pastoral means? If I just said, we lived in the red brick pastoral, would you know what the word pastoral means?
I've not heard that before.
Yeah, you haven't heard that word, okay? It's not a common word. That's why I have this noun phrase that renames pastoral. It clarifies it more for you. The house the church owned next to the church building. Now you know what a pastoral is,
I was having trouble remembering what
okay?
an appositive meant.
And a positive is a noun phrase that renames
Oh, right, so like
the subject. All right, there's another one in here. Let's see. Oh, the next one's easy. Another positive in that paragraph. It's a super easy one.
It belongs to the Johnson sisters. No. Sorry, I'm stupid.
So, from a visual standpoint, if you're looking for wherever the
My wife,
yes, what I was about to say is if you're looking for an appositive, you're already automatically looking for what in the paragraph? Commas. You already know there have to be commas. In fact, there's going to be two commas, right? Unless it's at the end of the sentence, like the previous one. But if it's just inside this, it's going to be inside. So my wife is renamed by Jamie. So instead of saying it didn't take long for my wife Jamie and I to become keenly aware, say, well, why didn't you just write that way? Well, I could have. But also, as there are other people's names in here and things like that, I'm like, well, I don't want the sentence structure to all be the same. So I'm going to have an appositive. It didn't take long for my wife, Jamie, and I to become keenly aware that the sisters were always watching. All right? So now, in this paragraph, we've got participles and adjectives out of order. Let's see if there are any of them in here. Oh yeah, you ought to be able to see adjectives out of order just in that little section.
The mongrel, dingy, gray, and dangerously skinny.
Yeah. See, there's no noun, it's just adjectives. Instead of saying the dingy gray and dangerously skinny mongrel, which is what we would normally say, and I don't want to take all, I mean, certainly don't want to go in and say, I want to take all my adjectives and move them out of order. Well, now you're just doing another same kind of writing. You want to have, all kinds of ways that you're using adjectives. But rather than having it in front of mongrel, I said the mongrel, dingy gray and dangerously skinny. So I've shifted them out of order there. And I've got participles in here. Participle phrases. Anybody see a participle?
I see an action verb.
I've definitely got those.
The side of a human immediately disappeared.
No? Who do I see? Some more adjectives out of order. Everybody sees it? Look at the sentence,
I'm trouble on this one.
look at the sentence right here.
So it's the one I just read.
What did you read?
The exact sentence saying it was an action verb.
Oh,
He
well,
did.
there is an action verb, I mean, that disappeared, but where are the participles?
Just mocking and laughing.
So maybe this will help you understand it. In this sentence, what is the verb? What's the subject? What's the subject of that
Cat.
sentence? Huh?
The cat?
Well, the words cat don't appear in there.
The human.
It disappeared.
Huh?
It disappeared.
It.
It's, yeah.
It is the subject. So the main clause that's got a subject and verb in it, it immediately disappeared into the thicket. We don't need anything else, right? That's a sentence. So in every one of these examples I'm showing you, you've got a sentence. And around that sentence, we're putting these phrases that are descriptive. So all of them, all 6 brushstrokes are made up of a main clause or it's a sentence. Okay, it's got a subject and verb, and it'll stand on its own. It immediately disappeared into the thicket. We could put a period. But what we're doing is saying we want to be more descriptive in our writing, so we painted onto this phrase, and we painted onto it this phrase. This phrase is a participle phrase. You know it because it's got the ing words. All right? What is this phrase? At the side of a human. What kind of phrase is that? At the side of a human. Go say it.
I feel like I'm wrong.
But I think you're right.
Prepositional
Yes,
phrase?
it's a prepositional phrase. Can you be at a tree? Yeah. At the side of a human. So we got a prepositional phrase that paints something into our mind. When does this cat disappear? Every time it sees a human. And we've got mocking and laughing as it vanished there. Okay? Look at this sentence right. Well, this is where I'm going to teach you something. It preferred to walk on clean cars, newly washed. What's newly washed?
Car.
Right. So we would normally say it preferred to walk on newly washed cars. So what is newly washed?
Shifted adjective.
Yeah, we've shifted
Yeah.
these adjectives out of order. Okay? Look at angry. Look at this one right here. Angry and determined. I would hunt this cat to no avail. Angry and determined. Adjective shifted out of order. That doubles as a participle, even though you don't realize that because it's an ed, but this is one of those where a participle and an adjective are the same thing. So there's a few more. Moving on down. What we got in this one? Got prepositional phrases in this one. With a final glance toward my newly washed car, I gently place the bowl beside the step. So I give you this action where I glance toward my car and think, I'm gonna kill this sucker tonight.
He's done.
He's not walking on my car tonight.
That's where I got my participle, literally the first sentence.
Where?
The first sentence.
Oh, yeah.
I got a participle.
Look at there. Participles. Snatching and reeling my Zebco, I enjoyed the bump of a largemouth bass. So have we found examples of all of them now? Noun absolute. Where do we have a noun absolute?
I have mine at shaking her head. Jamie said nothing. She handed me another hefty garbage bag.
Shaking,
No, wait.
no, that would have to be head shaking.
I think I didn't grab.
Shaking my head would be a participial phrase. So let's see if we can find,
Noun absolute.
a noun absolute. That's gonna be a noun and an ing word. Do I tell us a clue? Let's see, more brush strokes. Let's see if I can put one in here. Shaking her head, Jamie said nothing, that's a participle. Oh, here we go.
Guts wrenching.
Guts wrenching. Once again, guts wrenching, I opened the door and crawled outside and stuffed the stiff cat, stuffed the stiff dead cat into the bag. Ooh, look at this, look at that action verb. Paranoia whispered from the soybean.